Tired of doing the same old thing every night? Well, light up those nights with Microvision, Milton Bradley's great new handheld electronic game system. So for new excitement, get Microvision, the programmable game system from MB Electronics.
In a previous video of Player One Start, I showcased the Peoria QuadCon that I went to here in my area. While I was there, I ended up picking up a couple of interesting items, one of which was this Milton Bradley Microvision console. I also got a not working Macintosh Plus, but I couldn't wait to get home and try out the Microvision. So in this video, we're actually going to take a look at that console and give it a thorough review. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Player One Start. So that's right, today's topic is on the Milton Bradley Microvision console that was released in 1979. Now this is the first time that Milton Bradley has come up in video games, at least on this channel. However, I think this is the first time that Milton Bradley released any sort of console that had interchangeable cartridges. This console is very interesting to me because, to my knowledge, there was no other portable console that had interchangeable cartridges released until the Game Boy in 1989, 10 years later. So it is no wonder that the games on that console would have been leaps and bounds better than what was on this console. Still, this has been something that ever since I learned about it in the Ultimate History of Video Games by Stephen L. Kent, that I thought that I would see somewhere, but never actually own. And even still, because I know that these consoles are very finicky and might not work correctly when you do find them, I was also very surprised to see that I was able to get a working console. Oh yeah, before I get too far into it, don't forget to click that subscribe button and the bell icon to be notified when I make future posts. So that said, where have I heard Milton Bradley's game before on this channel? Well, it's actually with the Vectrex. Milton Bradley didn't develop the Vectrex, however, they did buy it out from GCE when they were looking to get into the home video game market. And again, that was another system that was deemed as a portable system. No, it wasn't battery powered. I mean, it had that huge high voltage display in it, so, I guess I say huge because for a portable console it has a huge monitor, but then again, it's not that big of a monitor overall. But anyway, Milton Bradley bought out the Vectrex right in 1983 when the video game crash happened, and when their sales immediately fell off after that, Milton Bradley discontinued the Vectrex and really just backed out of video games overall, only deciding to make games afterwards instead of making consoles. So it's actually interesting to see a console that was developed from scratch from Milton Bradley that used interchangeable cartridges, and they decided to make it portable. So how did this console come to be, and what makes it tick? Let's go ahead and find out. The Microvision, aka the Milton Bradley Microvision, or just the MB Microvision, is the first handheld game console that used interchangeable ROM cartridges. It was released by the Milton Bradley Company in November of 1979. The Microvision was designed by J. Smith, the same engineer who would later design the Vectrex gaming console. The Microvision's combination of portability and a cartridge-based system led to moderate success, with Smith Engineering grossing $15 million in the first year of the system's release. However, very few cartridges, a small screen, and lack of support from established home video game companies led to its demise in 1981. Its legacy would live on, though, as Satoru Okada, the former head of Nintendo's R&D 1 department, said that the Microvision gave birth to the Game & Watch after Nintendo designed it around the Microvision's limitations. Unlike most consoles that came after the Microvision, this system did not contain an onboard CPU. Instead, each game included its own processor contained within the removable cartridge. That meant that the console itself is effectively just a panel of controls with an LCD panel and LCD controller. The cartridges themselves could use different processors, with the first games using both the Intel 8021 and Texas Instruments TMS 1100 processors. Some games that initially used the Intel 8021 were reprogrammed to use the TMS 1100 after there were purchasing issues with Intel. The battery compartment was designed to allow two 9-volt batteries to be inserted with proper polarity of positive and negative terminals. However, since it was possible to short out the two batteries and they would overheat, the solution was to remove one of the terminals for the batteries to prevent this hazard. And due to the high cost of changing the production molds, this extra space for the battery is still contained in the back of my unit. Milton Bradley's marketing team referred to it as the spare battery holder. Microvision units today, and their cartridges, are a bit rare. Those that are still in existence are susceptible to three main problems. The first being screen rot. The manufacturing process used to create the Microvision's LCD was primitive by modern standards. Poor sealing and impurities introduced during the manufacturing process has resulted in a condition known as screen rot, where the liquid crystal spontaneously leaks and permanently darkens, resulting in a game unit that still plays but is unable to properly draw the screen. And also, extreme heat, such as leaving the unit in direct sunlight for a long period of time, can instantly destroy the screen, so that should also be avoided. There is nothing that can be done to prevent screen rot in most Microvision systems. A major design problem on early units involves the fact that the microprocessor lacks ESD protection, and is directly connected to the copper pins which normally connect the cartridge to the Microvision unit. If the user opens the protective sliding door that covers the pins, the processor can be exposed to any electric charge the user has built up. The last of the three major problems involves keypad destruction. The Microvision unit has a 12-button keypad with the switches buried under a thick layer of flexible plastic. To align the user's fingers with the hidden buttons, the cartridges had cutouts at the bottom. The problem with these cutouts is that they were made of very thin plastic, and after a while of pressing the buttons, they would eventually thin out, and at the very end of their life, they would tear. If the user had long fingernails, this would accelerate the process of deterioration. As for some of the tech specs, each cartridge could come with a processor speed of about 100 kHz, or 0.1 MHz, which isn't really that fast, but these games weren't really requiring a lot of processing power. The RAM integrated into the CPU was only 64 bytes. That's even less memory than the Atari 2600 had. The size of the ROM chip largely depended on the type of processor you used. Where the TMS series can handle 2 KB ROM chips, the 8021 could only handle a 1 KB ROM chip. Regardless of the processor, the ROM chip was also integrated into the same package as the CPU. The LCD display controller was a custom driver made by Hughes. And for sound, there was a simple beeper speaker. Aside from the 12-button keypad, there was also one paddle. Depending on the game, it would make use of some of the buttons, the paddle, or a combination of both. The game cartridges in the US were all beige colored, however in Europe they came in a variety of colors, and the games were numbered on the box. There are only about 12 titles that are known to have been released for this system, and we have a few of them here to try out in this video. So wow, the history behind this console is actually a bit interesting to me as well, especially because there was really nothing else like this until, like I said, the Game Boy years later. And we are going to take a look at some of the games, but I will warn you that my game selection is a little light because there weren't that many games made for this console, and I don't have very many games for this console. So we'll just go ahead and take a look at the games that I have, not necessarily the best of the bunch, but I do have a little bit just to give you a small sample. Let's go ahead and take a look at this kind of unique console. It's kind of interesting to note that the game cartridge here is what's covering up most of the electronics on the board. If we take out the game cartridge, we can have a look at the LCD control assembly. The game Blockbuster here was the game that most units were sold with, although Bowling, Connect 4, Shooting Star, and Pinball were other games available at launch, each for about $20 a piece, with the original console itself selling for $50 with Blockbuster. It's kind of weird that this game cartridge is not just a cartridge, it's actually most of the logic behind this system as well. Taking a look at the unit without the game cartridge, you can see that the game buttons are exposed, as well as the LCD. There's a little protective shield here, and then the pin connectors for the cartridge. Turning the console around to the back, you can see the battery compartment, which did throw me off at first because I thought this was supposed to be for AA's, but this is actually a bit too short. Thinking about other electronics from this time period, I eventually came to the conclusion that this was a 9-volt battery compartment. Interestingly, I was wondering why there was a second plus and minus terminal there when there was only 2 connectors. But anyway, let's go ahead and put Blockbuster back in, and I will try out this game. This is actually as much as an initial impression of this console, and game for that matter, because this is my first time powering this on. Luckily, everything worked the first time I tried it out. Well, mostly. I had a hard time trying to find a good viewing angle where there wasn't a camera glare on the front of the screen. That's right, you didn't expect a game console from 1979 to have its own backlit LCD, did you? This all works the same way as the original Game Boy, where you have a reflective background that provides the light so you can see the screen. Also, the screen was a little garbled when I first turned it on. I don't know if this is a result of this just sitting for a while, but eventually it straightened itself out, and it hasn't done it since. Back to my screen glare issue, I actually couldn't figure out a good angle for this, so I tried shutting off the light from my camera and the screen was a bit too dark. Eventually I decided to go ahead and film it at this angle because this worked out the best in terms of being able to see what's on the screen. And I can make it look better by having the light on my camera so you can see the console as well as the screen. Now let's take a look at how this game plays. Well, as you might be able to tell, this game is a blatant copy of Breakout, which is actually a pretty good accomplishment for a console of this time period. The game actually plays really well. It took me a little bit to figure out how to control everything and get the game started, and get the game's settings configured without that instruction manual, but once I did, I was hooked. My only complaint is that the ball never really seemed to slow down, or sped up way too fast, so I never really got more than a few volleys before I missed the ball or it ricocheted off really fast and I couldn't get to it in time. I assume I would get better at this game, especially if I had more practice with it, which I think would have happened back in the day, as most likely this would have been the only game I had for it for a while, so I would probably play this game to death. Overall, it's still fun to play today, but I will note that since I have better ways to play this, including portably, I would much rather go for that option instead. Still, to have this and be on the bleeding edge of technology back in 1979, I would have been ecstatic to have something like this. For me, it would have been like having a portable Atari. I mean, yeah, the graphics are very rudimentary and you can't really make anything other than a square be your player character, but I think it's pretty fun. And this may not be leaps and bounds better than those standalone consoles that we always got, you know, those handheld Tiger Electronic games that came out. But what's nice about this console is you can switch it out for another game. Next I'll put in Alien Raiders. It's here I'm going to note that each box has the game kind of held in with these foam connectors. It's very nice I was able to find the boxes that still had these because this will offer some extra protection. I'll go ahead and get the game into the console here and then I'll get it powered on. We'll take a look at what it looks like. And without really knowing what to do, I quickly died, so I will have to figure out how to play this game before I continue. So essentially the goal of this game is just to stop an endless raid of aliens from reaching past the left part of the screen. You control a spaceship that shoots out a laser that you control not only the height of the laser, but how far it juts out in front of you. If you overshoot your enemy, you won't be able to destroy it, and if you undershoot it, obviously you won't destroy it either. So you have to get it at just the right spot. And oh yeah, your spaceship kind of auto-scrolls back and forth, so you have to get the spaceship within a certain number of passes or else you'll run out of time and the spaceship will fly past you before your ship makes its way back. Overall, I think this is the game I end up playing the most, kind of because I just found this gameplay to be a bit more addicting. It doesn't have the difficulty of Blockbuster, and it kind of has that appeal of Space Invaders. And I guess that's the best way I can describe this game, seeing how both of its names are kind of synonyms for Space Invaders, alien raiders. But it's given just enough of a twist to make it work on this console, and yeah, this is a game I found that was pretty fun. Alright, next up is baseball. I'm going to go ahead and get the cartridge out here and put it into the console. I must say this is actually a bit more cumbersome than I thought it would be. If you can imagine trying to take these around with you portably, this would become quite a challenge to bring a whole bunch of games with you. But anyway, this game is the very basics of baseball. I think you can only play as the batter, and the batter is just a square with another square that rotates around it. And you have to try to time it with the ball that gets thrown at you, which is yet another square. It doesn't really show up well on camera, so I'm not going to show too much of it, but needless to say that this game would have been fun back in 1979, but I don't find it as fun today. Still, I do think it would be interesting to try to get a second player here to see who can get the better high score. So what are my thoughts on this console with the games that I have? Well, from a portable console from 1979, these games would have actually been very entertaining on road trips or when waiting on my brothers to get done with the TV so I would have a turn to play the Atari. But when playing these games in the modern day, it is a very dated experience. I don't think there are a lot of people out here who would enjoy playing these games often, especially over the modern alternatives. As a hardcore game collector that is going for most systems, I'm very happy to have this in my collection, and it is something that as a novelty I may pull out from time to time. So the main question is, would I recommend this console to those who are collecting? Well, it's an oddball situation. I definitely wouldn't recommend this console to casual collectors. And that's mainly because you have to know what you're looking for and looking at when you find this console. Yes, I did come across this console a few times in my collecting journey, but most of the time that display was either rotted through or suffered some damage. You have to know and be able to fix some of these issues with this console. I got extremely lucky by finding one that was already in perfect working order. However, this console is not likely to break the bank when you do find it, and that's because there aren't that many games that were released with it, and it's not really that high of demand for game collectors, and that's possibly because of the issues this console could have with it. But I think what overall is going to prohibit you from collecting this is the lack of games, and the games are, yeah, they're a novelty, and they are fun to play when you have one, but it's not worth going out of your way to collect these games. There are much better experiences you can have, even portably, by emulating an old game on a modern system such as your cell phone, the Nintendo Switch, a tablet. You can pretty much get a better experience than what you would have with this console. I think the main thing driving the collection of this console is nostalgia. For me personally, I just wanted to give it a try out and see what this console could do. And for my purpose, it was solely to try it out to see what it was actually like. And now that I have, I thought I'd share that experience with you all because maybe you'd like to see how this console worked and what it actually looked like, but you don't have the ability to get one yourself. So that said, this is actually going to be a piece of technology that is put into storage and not brought out too often, rather than something I find myself playing a lot. But that said, that is going to wrap it up for this video. As always, if you enjoyed today's video, please leave a like and leave a comment below letting me know what you liked about today's video and what you'd like to see in the future on this channel. Again, I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. If you like this video and you'd like to help out with future projects on this channel, please consider supporting me on Patreon. Also, if you enjoy the content of this channel, please remember to click on this subscribe button. Again, I want to thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.